Hello and welcome to Brand Your Passion, the show that helps you turn the thing you love the most into something that people know and love you for. I'm your host, Holly Arnett, the brand coach for creatives, and I'm on a mission to make the world a more creative place, one brand at a time. If you're ready to get more eyes on your work, more dollars in your pocket, and more creativity in your life, you're in the right place. Welcome. Let's brand your passion. Hello everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Brand Your Passion. I am super excited today because I am joined by Terence, who we've just been talking, we've been friends online for a long time, but this is one of the first real conversations in real life that we're having. So I'm super excited to be having this conversation with Terence, but I'm also excited to have this conversation for you to learn about Terence's brand and have this conversation about branding from somebody who does hand lettering. And so, yeah, welcome to the show.
Thanks Holly. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So I have hinted, obviously, that you do hand lettering, but do you want to introduce yourself, give us your preferred pronouns if you're okay with that, and then share a bit about what your passion is?
Sure. So I'm Terence. I am from Houston, Texas. I guess these days I'm mainly a lettering artist, but previously I've been known to do some video, some graphic design, some photography, even a little DJing back in a previous life. I'm a big sneakerhead. I just kind of do all the things. I've been starting to do more murals these days.
Cool. I did not know about the DJing.
that was long time ago. I don't exactly talk about it a lot, but
yeah, but a very cool thing to add just casually.
yeah.
So tell us a bit about your studio. How did that sort of come about, and how has it kind of come to where it is today?
So I have I have about 12, 13 years of experience working in corporate. I came out of college and then immediately went into corporate life. And I kind of lived in it for a while, and, I had the whole mentality of, get a job and stay in that job until you retire. And, I tried to live that out, but I just kind of felt myself slowly dying inside. I just, I wasn't learning a ton like I did at first, obviously, but, after a while, it just didn't really learn much anymore in the office. So I would teach myself photography outside of the office and do other things. And just discovering things on my own, I kind of realized, man, I want to do something that's my own. Like, just coming to the office and sitting here doing someone else's stuff, like it's starting to get really old, and it doesn't excite me anymore, and I just want to do my own thing. So after doing a bit of research and listening to some podcasts, I just kind of got encouraged and had a talk with my wife, and she was like, yeah, if you want to do it, go for it. If it doesn't work, you can always go back to work. So it just kind of happened.
That's awesome. I love that. That was the kind of decision was like, if it doesn't work, you can just go back to work, because that's the, before I started my business, I talked to a life coach about what to do with my life. And that's what she said to me. She was like, if it doesn't work, what are you going to do? I was like, I guess I just go back and get a normal job. She was like, okay, so why don't you just try?
Yeah, I had to get over a lot of that fear. I don't know why I was so afraid that if I quit my job at the time, I felt like I was throwing my entire career, everything I've built over the last 13 years, I felt like I was throwing it out the window, and I would never get it back. But, in reality, obviously, I still have the skill set. If anything, I'll learn more from trying to run my own business. So I'll be better off doing that experience. So yeah, it took a lot of, I had to convince myself a lot that, like, it's not over. Even if you fail, it's not over. You can still do other things.
Yeah, the option is always there to go back, but the aim is to not have to.
Right, of course.
Yeah. And so when you started doing your own thing, did you start it as Tinlun Studio straight away?
I did. I started as Tinlun because really what happened was I just started playing around with hand lettering. I went to a design conference, and one of the speakers had hand lettered their entire presentation deck was hand lettered.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, hand lettering is a thing. Like, I used to draw letters a lot when I was a kid, and I didn't know that it was a thing. I just always been kind of obsessed with it, but never pursued it in any serious kind of way. And so I came back from that conference, and I was like, I want to try this hand lettering thing. I want to see if I can get good at it. And that was right around the time that Instagram started to see a big hand lettering boom. And I had just jumped on Instagram just to see, like, let me just put my practice up on Instagram just so that I can catalog my progress and maybe get some feedback from some people. And yeah, so I just chose the name Tinlun because Tinlun is my Chinese name. And so I was like, I need a handle. What am I? I'm not gonna be Terence Tang, you know, that's kind of lame. So I was like, let me do something else, just some sort of alias. And I was like, let's do Tinlun, why not? So I just picked it and just ran with it, started posting stuff, and then it just kind of formed into its own thing.
Yeah. And so are you like, have you ever thought about changing your name or going, I know a lot of people are like, oh, maybe I should use my name that people call me, and identify as more of a personal brand. Have you ever thought about doing that, or you're happy?
I have. I think I think about it like every few months. I'm like,
have the
should
existential crisis.
Yeah, I'm just like, does this resonate with anyone? Is it just me? Like, do I need to change it to something that's more relatable? And I don't know. I go back and forth with it, but then I just figure, you know, it's me, and people can kind of, what I like about it is that it doesn't have a meaning to anyone else. It has a meaning to me, but for everyone else, they can assign their own meaning to it. Yeah. And so if I build my brand properly, like, it'll have its own meaning out there that people decide on their own. So I try to hang on to that mindset.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I like that it's, you know, it is your name, even though it's not, you know, your name that most people call you. It still is your name. So it's still you, it's still personal. So I like that. That's cool. And Thanks. So the logo that you have now, did you have a logo from the beginning? Is that, was it different back then? How's it changed over time?
Yes. I think I have the sketches somewhere, but in the beginning, it was a very terribly brush penned version of what it is now. And I just kept that for a while. And back then I wasn't a business. Back then I was still just putting my work out on Instagram for fun. And as I started getting more serious with it, and then picking up tips from friends that I had picked up along the way on Instagram, like teaching me how to do, how to vector the lettering, what are the best tips and tricks for that, I started to get a little fancier with, all right, now I'm gonna actually make this thing a vectored logo and like actually represent myself properly. And then from there, learning even more, getting more feedback from friends, nitpicking at it, you know, it's evolved into what it is now. So it's probably in its 4th iteration or so.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so kind of iterating and changing that is more of a decision because you've grown in your skill set, or were you also trying to, you know, get more professional with your logo, or was it just about improving the skills?
I think it was both. I think after I grew in my skills and I looked at the logo, I could see, maybe it was just in my head, but I felt like it, with some tweaks, it could look more professional. I was like, oh, look at it. Like, it looks a little bit amateurish. Like, I need to tweak it to look better, you know? I don't know, maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of some added pressure when you are like a hand lettering artist or a logo designer and you're making your own logo. Like, some other creators might not have that pressure, but when it represents your actual skills, it's got to look pretty good.
Yeah, and I had to make sure that it's it actually represents my style too, because it's tempting to do other, like a clean kind of block style or something that's, it just looks cleaner and it's more legible. But I wanted to make sure that it's representative of the kind of lettering that I do, and the kind of the personality that my lettering and my brand exudes.
Yeah, cool. So speaking of the like personality that your brand exudes, is that something that you have ever like intentionally thought about, or has it just kind of come because it's your personality? What has that process been like?
Yeah, I don't intentionally try to shape it in any way. I just make sure that everything is authentically me.
Cool.
And I'm actually kind of curious as to, what your take on the brand personality is, because I don't get many third party perspectives on what my brand is, like what it means.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Well, one of the things that I was going to talk to you about and bring up that I always think about when I think about you is that, like I said, I think I started following you like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe, when I was starting to get into hand lettering. And I had been following you for a while and engaging in your stuff and, liking your content because it's amazing, and was very inspirational to me as like a new hand lettering person. And you just randomly out of the blue sent me like a bunch of your stuff. And I still have it. I still like use the little notebooks for sketches, and I have your patch on my denim jacket, and I have this stuff, and it's something that sticks out about you and your brand is how like generous that was, and how you wrote like a note about how grateful you were for people engaging in your content. And I think like that is something that I wanted to ask you about, because I was like, is that just something that's inherently you? Is it something that you do often? Is it something that, was kind of intentional, like I want my audience to know that I'm like grateful and that I'm a generous person? Like, what was that thought process like for you?
Yeah, it's just all of the above. I mean, it's so easy to think, from a business perspective, like, yeah, I'm just giving all my stuff away and I'm not making money on it. But I feel like, you can't put a dollar value on sending someone like a surprise patch or something, and then it like makes their day.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of thing that really gets me going, and that makes me feel good. And that, if I can help, make people feel better and help the world be a better place from little silly gestures like that, if I lose out on $1 for that, it's totally worth it. And so I don't know, I think that's just my approach to, who I am, and what I'm just overall trying to do with this brand is just to make the world a better place in some small silly way, if even possible.
Yeah, well, it worked. It definitely put a smile on my face, and it's something that I, all these years later still remember and still think about. And I see that patch on my jacket and I'm like, Terence sent me that, and it was such a cool like indication of you and your personality and your brand. So yeah, I think it's interesting that people maybe don't think about doing that, or like you say, worry about, oh, I'm going to lose out $1 or whatever. Yeah. But it's worth it for the kind of perception, and to give your audience this like wow moment that they'll remember you by.
Yeah, and I also remember, like, since we're doing flashbacks, I remember you wrote a blog post about, I think it was like top 5 or top 10 designers that you follow or something, and I was on the list, and I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm on someone's top 10 list? Like, that just blew my mind. Like, I was just I couldn't fathom it. I still can't fathom it. Yeah. But like that really made my day, and I still think about it. I'm like, man, I made someone's top 10 list. That's just crazy to think about. So
that's amazing. That's all right. I mean, it's a good reminder, and I see this pop up on Twitter sometimes, that if you do like a creator's work, man, does it mean a lot to just say like, hey, I love your work.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing what you do. Like, yeah, for people who are listening, if there are creators that you follow and that you love their work, it makes such a huge difference just to be like, just to say that and let them know. Well, you never know what it will do for their day or their life or
Yeah,
whatever.
and if other creatives are anything like me, like they're extremely insecure as I am. I'm like questioning whether I should be doing this or changing careers. Like every day, every week, I'm like, should I keep doing this or should I do something else? Like I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm any good at this. Like those little comments help a lot. So if
Yeah.
you know, piggybacking on what you said, if you enjoy someone's work, just tell them. Like
Yeah.
it really means a lot.
Mm-hmm. And it could mean the difference in Terence continuing doing lettering.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's like kind of continue that conversation a little bit about, you know, being artists and being a little bit insecure in what we do and having these sort of tumultuous creative experiences. When I had asked you to do the podcast, obviously from my perspective, I'm like, Terence is so successful. I love his brand. Everything that he does is amazing. But you said that you weren't sure about doing the podcast because you didn't feel like you were successful. So do you want to tell me kind of a little bit about that thought process and kind of where you were at when I asked you about
Yeah,
that?
sure. I mean, I guess, you know, when someone says successful designer, I guess you could look at it a couple different ways. One would be, you know, have you worked with any big famous notable brands? You know, like that's kind of a designer, every designer has a bucket list, right? Like who do you want to work with? And then the second thing is, are you making a living? Are you making money? And so I look at those two things and I'm like, well, I have maybe one or two bucket list things checked off as far as brands go, but I'm not making a ton of money. You know, like I'm kind of scraping by, especially with the pandemic and the quarantine and everything. Like things have come to a screeching halt.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, even before that, I was struggling to find where I belong in this whole creative thing. And like, you know, the apparel business is tough. Like margins are small. It's hard to market online. If you take your show on the road, that's a lot of work. To set up booths everywhere, you know, like you get a lot of recognition that way, but you know, it's hard work, especially with a family and two kids. So the apparel thing was going really rough, and trying to find clients was pretty challenging as well. And then I was starting to refocus on doing murals, and doing that was helping a bit. It was starting to pick up, and then the pandemic happened. So it's hard. So yeah, I mean, I think mainly I just wanted to be clear that, you know, it may look like someone is, you know, super successful and like super busy with work and, you know, just killing it, but you know, it's not always the case. Like there's a lot of struggle in trying to do your own thing. So and I think, you know, when you like quit a job and you try to start your own business, you always have this glorified, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make a ton of money, I'm gonna enjoy what I do every day, it's gonna be amazing, I'm never gonna work a day in my life. You know, that old saying, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. Man, you have to bust your ass, like you really do. And so yeah, I didn't want there to be any misconception that I quit my job and I'm just killing it and I'm doing amazing and I'm loving life and it's stress free. You know, it's hard work, and it's really a struggle every day.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally relate to that. I'm like the same thing. I was just quit my job, and I quit my job, which was like a terrible job, and so it was like I could do anything to get out, and I did not have the like 3 months salary or whatever the heck people tell you you're supposed to have. I was just like, no, I'm done, I'm out of here, and just like then had to hustle harder than freaking ever, and learn stuff so quickly, and things that I never thought I would have to learn, like freaking accounting and marketing and like networking and client management and all these things that design school didn't teach me, that my past jobs didn't teach me. And you're right, we work harder than ever.
But there's definitely something to be said about, you know, you said you were at a terrible job, you know, mental health wise, like that really takes a big toll. So like there is definitely something to be said about leaving that even without a plan or anything. Like if you know, you can't put a value on your mental health.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I would
that's probably
trade
what,
like sorry, I interrupted you.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I would trade, like, I would do what I do now, even though it's so much more difficult running my own business on my own. I would do that
Yes.
any day of the week over going back to some crappy job that I had before.
Totally. Some like places somehow can be so incredibly toxic,
Yeah.
and like, you know, however easy the job function, you know, however high the pay, like it's not worth it if it's a toxic environment. It's just terrible.
No, for sure. I've done like a couple of contract jobs during like running my own business, and every time I go back I'm like, why am I doing this? But I get lured back by like the consistent
Right.
salary or whatever, you know, like, oh, I'll have 3 months of consistent income, and then I'm like, not worth it.
Yeah.
Not good. Yeah. But I think it's important to acknowledge, like you were saying, that I think branding is really powerful, and that you can kind of create this perception that people see from the outside, right? And you can use that however you want to, really, when you run your own business. And it's up to you kind of how transparent you want to be with your audience, if you want to share like how much you're struggling or not, or like the realities or whatever. And so that can be powerful in many different ways. And it's up to you, I guess, how you portray that brand. And I also was thinking about it after you said, after we kind of had this conversation on Instagram, that branding is kind of like one part of the puzzle, right? You can have like an incredible brand, which from my perspective, I feel like you have a great brand. I think hand lettering and I think Terence straight away. And
Thank
like,
you.
you know, I know what you do and you have this great perception, but it's only one part of the puzzle. You can have an incredible brand, but then you also have to, think about like marketing and accounting and like the margins of your products and your business. And so they all work together, and you have to think about all the different parts of the puzzle rather than just the one thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've considered so many times, like, how do I find someone like a business partner that will do all the stuff that I don't want to do, so that I can focus on like the one or two things that I actually do want to do, which is actually the art part. Like, I just want to do the art part and make money. And can someone else just like find me clients and, you know, and do my taxes and do my accounting and all that?
Yeah, you got to start hiring some people.
Yeah.
That's my goal currently, because I don't know what you like, but I feel like as a creative and someone who's like, I have a vision and I am passionate about what I do, and it's hard to kind of let go of control of certain things that I do.
Yes.
And so I'm like, only very recently have I been like, okay, I'll let this person do like the copywriting for my website, and just one thing at a time, and then next time I'll get someone else to build my website, whereas I normally would do that myself. Like, you know, these little things that I'm like, I'll slowly let other people do those things for me.
Yeah. I had to trade off. When I first started doing the apparel stuff, I would handle all the shipping and fulfillment myself. And
Wow, yeah.
the time spent doing that was just killing me. And so I finally only just recently said, you know what, like I could just say the apparel thing didn't work, or I could just pivot a little bit and say, all right, I can't spend all this time shipping and fulfilling. How do I do this drop shipping thing? And so then I looked into getting on board with Printful and getting them to print and fulfill all my stuff. And doing that has opened up a whole world of new products and things for me that I don't even have to worry about. Like I design it and just put it out there, and then people buy it. I'm like, oh, cool. I don't even have to touch it at that point. I mean, if things go wrong from a production standpoint, then I have to talk to Printful, but that's, you know, that's rare. But, you know, finally convincing myself to like let go of those things and pivot Like that's been one of the harder lessons to learn.
Yeah, and it's a
Running
slow
business.
lesson to learn, but we get
Yes.
there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's probably freed you up to spend more time creating different apparel and making more other work.
Yes, for fun. I mean, it has kind of a cascading effect where, I have more time to create apparel, so then I can put more apparel out, and then more people get different kinds of apparel, and they can help you spread the word and help you build your brand presence with, their friends and their family.
Yeah.
And then in turn, since I can spend more time creating, I'm more fulfilled, and then I have more ideas, and it keeps going. It branches out exponentially.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like that is like a great lesson for anybody listening, that it's, it is hard to let go of some of those things sometimes, but when you weigh it up, if you're going to spend way more time doing that thing that you hate and that is like taking you away from what's eventually going to get you fulfilled and making more money, then maybe it's worth kind of handing off that thing and trading that so you can spend more time, like you say, making more things to then sell more things to then keep that cycle going. So
Definitely.
worth it. And also like I saw that you're now selling like pillows and mugs and like
Yep.
that's awesome. I want that pillow that just says the F word across, like so good.
It's funny because people are starting to receive those, then like, oh my god, this pillow is effing amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. I'm not going to say that word on the podcast, but you can imagine it's just like incredible hand lettering of the F word across a pillow. And I feel like
that artwork actually can't, sorry if I'm interrupting you, but that artwork actually came out of a very rough day of quarantine and watching my two kids for the entire day.
wow.
And this was maybe a month and a half in of watching my two kids all day while my wife was teaching remotely from a secluded room. I was just watching the kids all day, and it was a particularly rough day, and I needed to let out some frustration, and I went in the garage with some ink and I just wrote that. Just F word real big, like angry arting basically. And I posted it, and people were like, yeah, I need that on a shirt. I was like, all right, cool. So then I put it on a shirt, and I was like, oh, they have pillows. It's like, that's perfect, because then people are always saying, if you're angry, go punch a pillow or scream into a pillow.
True.
So I'm like, oh, well, that's perfect. I'm going to make an F word pillow so that people can punch it or scream into it.
I love that. That's so good. I love that. It like, sometimes art comes out of like great inspiring times, and then sometimes it comes out of like extreme frustration and it's good. Cool. All right, so tell me a little bit. I'm just like refinding my questions because we've gone in a million directions, but it's great. So I mentioned before that to me, I feel like when people say hand lettering, I'm like, Terence comes to mind straight away, Tinlun Studios. And you have like quite a large audience of people on Instagram and online who know you for what you do. Do you think that's taken like a long time for people to get to know you as like a hand lettering artist, as a muralist now is what you're also doing? Like, how has that kind of developed as people knowing you for what you do?
It's kind of funny because I think only other hand letterers know me as a hand lettering artist.
Right.
Like I have friends and family who still just think of me as some dude who draws things. Like they'll contact me like, hey, can you draw a portrait of my dog or something like that? And I'm like, I'm not that kind of artist. Like, have you not noticed that all of my art is letters? like do you see a dog portrait somewhere? So it's just interesting that, like I was actually having this conversation with my wife like a couple of days ago, is that it's frustrating that you can try so hard to build a brand that you think is like rock solid. Like you think you've nailed it and everyone gets it. Everyone knows exactly what you do. And then someone can just come out of nowhere and go, hey, can you draw me a dog? And it's like, what am I
I
doing wrong here? Like,
I think that might be more of like a user error on their part than your fault. Because if you go to your Instagram page, it's clearly letters. It's not.
yeah. But but maybe there's something to be said about that. Maybe there's something more that I could be doing to strengthen what it is that I'm doing. Maybe I've been a little all over the place with drawing on sneakers and drawing on walls, and I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it's all an experiment and a work in progress. So
Yeah.
I think I'm still feeling it out for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that I noticed that also you have like a separate Instagram for your apparel stuff. Is that kind of a way of like separating the apparel and getting people to know you for that thing?
Yes and no. So what happened was I originally tried to get approved for that. So Instagram has Instagram shopping where you can tag products directly in a post and have people click and buy directly from an Instagram post.
Yeah.
I've been dying for that feature for a long time. And I tried to get approved for it on Tinlun Studio, where my big audience is. And I kept getting rejected and I kept getting rejected and I couldn't figure out why. And I thought maybe it was because I'm not obviously a store. Like if you scroll through my feed, I've got some art here, I'm drawing on a wall over here, I have some sneakers over here, and I wrote the F word for no reason over here. And it's just like, I'm not a shop. If you look at the feed, like I'm not a shop, I'm not a store. So I thought maybe that was the reason. So I launched this separate Tinlun lifestyle to make it obvious that, hey, these are physical products and I am a shop. And just to see if I would get approved there. And I did. So I'm like, all right, well, now I have this shop over here that I'm trying to funnel traffic to.
Yeah.
But that's been an interesting process, a frustrating, interesting process.
Yeah, far out. So definitely more of a necessity than something you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh, that's good to know, because I was curious about whether it was like a intentional decision for like branding purposes or like separating things, but no, just Instagram being frustrating.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, far out. And you also, or like kind of on that topic, I get asked like quite a lot about whether people should have separate Instagrams for like their personal life, for their creative work, for their business, whatever it is that they might be doing. And I know that you also have one for like Lego racing, Lego car racing. But you like have a lot of your personal stuff, especially on your stories. And I love seeing your kids on stories, and like you do a bit of the Lego car racing stuff on stories, and like it adds to your brand and your personality and lets people get to know you. And is that something that you've kind of just intentionally done? Have you always done that? That kind of
I haven't always done it. When I started out, I had learned that you shouldn't post pictures of your family or your kids or whatever. You should stick to what it is that you do professionally and post just that, and and push that as hard as you can. And I did that for a while, and my account did grow as a result of that. But then after a while, I kind of realized, I do all this analog art, and with analog there's a human element. So I'm like, there's a dude behind all this. And so I should probably show people, like I don't want to hide behind this facade that I'm like, oh, I only post perfect lettering, and like I wanted to make it known that, hey, like I'm a person, I struggle, I have a family, my circumstances are different than this other person's circumstances or your circumstances. And I just want to be authentic in that way of, like there's a person here, and there's other things going on in his life, and I think over time people have really started to like that. And it's been interesting because as I've posted more stories about my kids, a lot of like some of my lettering heroes have reached out to me. They're like, oh my God, your kids are so cute. And I'm like, you're like like my top 3 designer. What do you like?
Yeah.
You're reaching out to me because of my kids. Like, it's so random. But it's interesting. People resonate with it. So it
Mhm.
like you said, it does help build my brand, even though I'm just really trying to be authentic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's, yeah, super important to know, and is like a great lesson, because people connect with people, and so like people are gonna probably like your lettering work and they'll follow along, but yeah, what gets people to actually engage with you and create relationships is people, and like having real connections and conversations, and yeah, about things that are completely different from what you're trying to sell or do. Is like, yeah, I had conversations the other day about like the fantasy novel I was reading. What the heck does that have to do with branding? Nothing. But I had like great DMs with so many people about what I was reading, and it's like people just connect with people and they want to know, and especially if you are like well, I was going to say like doing services, but also if you're selling products, because, you know, if people know who you are and what you're about and what you do in your spare time, and that you have a family, and they get to know you, they're probably more likely to want to support you than some random who they've never met or heard anything about and just has cool work.
Yeah, and I have actually, I feel like the connections I've made with people through Instagram are actually not hand lettering based. They're more based on other things like mental health or
Yeah.
struggles of some sort. And it's just, people message about something, and then we just start talking, and none of it is about hand lettering, or very little of it. And, it's, I appreciate those conversations because they're so real.
Yeah.
And that sort of connection is way more real than just some convo about hand lettering or design or whatnot. Like, yes, maybe the hand lettering brought them here, but forming that deeper connection is really what's been fulfilling.
Yeah. And you never know what like that conversation and that relationship will lead to, in terms of coming full circle to them buying your work or hiring you to do a mural or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's all full circle. Okay, so we're just kind of like going to wrap up a little bit now. So do you want to tell me, this is you can have time to think about this because I didn't pre-warn you, but what do you think is like the biggest lesson that you've learned about branding and branding your passion and creating a business out of what you do, that you've learned throughout what you've been doing?
The biggest lesson I've learned about branding my own business and trying to build it, I think the biggest lesson, so there's 2 lessons. One is business related and one is personal. The business one is that you set out to build a business, and you have this idea of what it's going to be and how it's going to be run and how it's going to function. But rarely does it ever work out perfectly in the way that you imagine. So you need to be ready to pivot in some way, some form. Like, you're going to need to change gears and do something different, something that you never expected to need to do, or some other way of doing something because of the audience that you're reaching that you didn't expect to reach. Now you have to get on this other platform or sell it a different way. But there will be something that calls upon you to pivot your thinking, and you have to be ready to do it, because if you are too stubborn about it and just stick to your guns, you may not make it. and I've learned that running a business is it can be pretty ruthless. Like, you kind of have to approach it from a from kind of a cutthroat perspective. Like, if you don't make this change, someone else is going to do it and be more successful than you are. So yeah, you just need to be ready to shift gears and pivot for the good of the business if you want to make it. The personal one is I'm married with 2 kids, and when I started my business, my first kid was just born. He was like 3 months old, and so I was spending a lot of time in my studio, working. And I'm working. I know I'm working, but them out there, they don't feel it that I'm working. They just feel that I'm not there. And I learned the hard way that I have to find a way to balance my time between the business and family life. Because I kept telling myself that, you know, I'm building this business for the family. I'm doing this for the family. And, you know, what good is all that effort if the family's not going to be there when you come out of the office? You know, so, you know, I almost learned that the very hard way that you know, you need to be intentional about how you spend your time and where you put your energy.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I don't have a family. I have a partner, but I don't have any children or anything. And so I'm always so amazed and in awe of creators and business owners who do have like a whole family and a whole brood of children to look after and to, you know, get food and clothing and school and all those things that you got to look after when you have a family. So I'm always impressed and amazed that what a great job you all do. So yeah, and I appreciate that advice and those lessons, and I think they're both incredible lessons in terms of business and personal life. So thank you so much. Do you have any kind of other advice for creators when it comes to their branding that you wanted to add, or your couple pieces of lessons do you think are good?
Just one more little thing. I think if try not to spend too much time like settling on a name or you know, like when you're just getting started, don't get too hung up on like, what am I going to call this? What am I going to do? Because that's just going to keep you from moving forward. Call it something, just get going, and you can always rename later, or, you know, shift gears, change your brand, pivot, as I just said. You know, like it's not going to go. You don't pick the perfect name and just run and build $1 billion company. Like it doesn't work that way. So it's more important to get moving than to have the perfect logo and the perfect name and the perfect branding statement and mission statement and everything. Like just get going.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I always say and always teach that branding is not like a one and done thing. It's something that you do again and again, and you iterate and refine. And I agree, it's more of a like done is better than perfect kind of thing. I'm like, I'd rather you just like type your name out in some like basic font and just put that up there and get started and get your business going, and start cultivating, you know, that audience and start selling things than worrying about what your logo's like or whatever the heck.
I mean, think about how many terrible logos of successful businesses are out there. Like, I'm sure, you know, just walk through like the hardware store, or like, you know, down the street somewhere, anywhere, like restaurants, like so many countless terrible logos. You're like, oh, who did that, you know? But then like, wow, this business has been around for 10 years. They're killing it. They're doing something right. You know, even the logo, even though the branding may be questionable, they're running their business. Like they're you know, so they got going and they did it correctly.
For sure. Cool. Do you want to let the people know where they can find you, and maybe something that you've got going on right now, or you're launching or selling, that people can go and check out?
Sure. You can find me basically everywhere at Tinlun Studio. That's Facebook, YouTube, .com, Instagram, Twitter. I'll also on Instagram at Tinlun Lifestyle. TinlunLifestyle.com also goes to my shop, where I have a myriad of F-word pillows and other things.
Highly recommended. Cool. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Terence. Firstly, like I said, it's awesome for me to just get to connect with you and have a conversation with you in real life. Well, kind of over the internet. But I'm also just so thankful for you, like sharing your experience and talking about some of the more like real sides of running a business and growing a brand. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm sure everybody who listens will go over and follow you and check you out. So yeah, I can't wait to see where things go. So thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Brand Your Passion and choosing to spend some time with me learning about branding, business, and all things creativity. You can find more episodes just like this one at blackandwhitestudios.nz/brandyourpassion. If you liked this one, you can tap that subscribe button so that you're notified about every new episode. And if you've got a spare second, I would love it if you could leave a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. I would love to hear from you and hear about how you're enjoying the podcast. If there were some helpful goodies in this episode for you, it would mean the world to me if you could screenshot your podcast player on your phone right now, hop over to Instagram or Twitter and tag me at Black and White Studios. That's at BLCKWHT Studios. By subscribing and reviewing and sharing, you're helping me to reach more creators just like you so that together we can make the world a more creative place, one brand at a time. I really can't achieve this mission without you, so your support means the world. I'll talk to you in the next episode, but until then, keep creating.